Closed-toed shoes are to be worn in the cutting and industrial machine areas of the lab. Eye protection must be worn at the flat seam machine if you have just changed over the needles. Once you have made the first few stitches and are certain everything is seated in the machine correctly and securely, then you may take off the eye protection. Please make sure to note the safety procedures posted at each station. This machine is not available to use without prior training and AIBI staff present. If something breaks or won't work right, stop using the machine and clearly place the emergency tent on top. Let the monitor on duty or other AIBI staff know that something has gone wrong. The Juki MF-3620 Flatseamer Machine. It produces a flat, slightly stretchy yet stable seam by slightly overlapping and then overlocking the two edges. A flat seam is good for garments like yoga pants, leggings, and other knitwear. The Flatseamer is the most complex machine in the Fashion Lab, with 6 thread cones, 4 needles, 1 blind needle, and 2 loopers. But there are some familiar parts. The thread stand, tension dials, needles, and a blade. Inside, there are 2 pieces called loopers that guide the horizontal threads that help create the overlock stitch. This is a presser foot, and this is a pedal to control the speed. When stitching, line up the edges in the fabric guide. The edges of the fabric will be trimmed away by a blade to create a smooth, even seam as you stitch. When you reach the edge of the seam, continue stitching so that there is always a thread tail left to help start the next seam. You can also move this dial to change the feed between the presser foot and the feed dogs, which creates a ripple in the fabric while stitching. To thread the Flatseamer, bring the threads from the cones down to the tension dials. The rightmost 2 threads will be drawn down through the 2 tubes on their way to the loopers. The 2 looper threads will then be brought from left to right through a set of tension bars. The rightmost looper thread will come straight down, run behind the metal guard, and then go through a long tube to thread the bottom looper. The left looper thread will run left across the top of the arm and down to thread a looper in front of the needles. The 4 leftmost threads are brought through 2 sets of individual thread guides and under a bar thread guide before threading the 4 needles. The threads are then brought together underneath the presser foot. Stitch without fabric for a little bit to establish the thread chain. Then make sure that the thread chain is brought out behind.